We're back with Laurie Kilmartin in studio. Laurie, thank you so much for coming.
Oh my God, thanks for having me.
Laurie,
thanks for asking.
Yeah, well, you're a lot bigger than this show, so we're just
fat.
glad that you were.
I did get fat.
We were delighted that.
Welcome to the show.
I got to start. See how late
hell.
I got that? I got to actually start listening to what other people are saying. That's like the key. That's like the big thing we've been trying to learn how to do on the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you ever?
He wasn't a douchebag till he met me, and I don't listen to anyone.
Oh,
and
God,
it's
that's
rubbed
right.
off on him.
You know what? I didn't even tell you the name of the show because I was scared for. I don't know why. I was just really paranoid that you might be offended for some reason. But the show's called Douchebags Anonymous, and we're.
I'm actually a member. I didn't
Oh,
know
are you?
there was
Okay.
a chapter
Yeah.
in Glendale, so that's great.
Well, I'm just
Laurie
glad.
K.
No, and that's where I'm coming from because I use douchebag as a blanket term for just all pricks,
Sure.
all anyone,
Yeah.
whether they're male, female.
And when you look at an actual douchebag, it's like that's actually not as bad as the douchebags I hang out with.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
the real
Well, what's
physical
interesting-
thing is not so offensive.
What's interesting is there's been a debate we just had on the show because there's a couple of people who think that the show is about actual physical douching.
Douchebagging, yeah, which we don't know a whole lot about. In fact, I'm hard pressed to even think of a girl I've ever known that actually
That seems
does
like
douchebag.
something that,
So I don't know.
Yeah, the mothers did. Yeah, I don't really know that anyone still does
That was like a butter
You know?
churning days thing.
Moms, and I'll say black women, still douche.
I think back in the butter churning days, you could actually hook up the butter churner to the vagina and douche that way. It was like a
I
dual
hook a butter
purpose.
churner to my vagina nightly.
Now, have you just temporarily relocated to LA, or are you out here for the long
I think
haul?
I'll be
or-
out here for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're
I
actually
mean,
from here originally, right?
I'm from San Francisco, and
Yeah.
I was in New York for 10 years. And
Yeah.
I think I'll be. I was out here for a little bit of time after Tough Crowd got canceled. I had a couple jobs
Right.
out here, so I was here, and then I went back as soon as I could.
Right. And you swam before you ever thought about doing comedy, right?
Yeah, I
So
was a competitive swimmer.
How did you make the transition? It's always tough from swimming to stand up. Sink or swim.
Very easily. I woke up at like 5 in the morning for so many years that the switch was real easy just to wake up at like 11. You know what's interesting is my swim coach is he's pleading guilty to sex crimes.
Oh, that is
I
interesting.
don't just throw this out there since
Yeah.
we're on Douchebags Anonymous.
Sure, that's douchey.
But,
Yeah.
if you Google Andy King swim coach, you can read about my coach. It's kind of depressing.
Can you Google Andy King and his former student Laurie Kilmartin's torrid love affair?
Back then they called it love, and now it's a sex crime. That's what's sad.
Laws have changed.
Yeah, talk to
tougher
Roman
culture.
Polanski about that. Sure.
You're on Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn, with the likes of Rich Voss, Patrice O'Neill, Jim Norton, all very brutal, confrontational comics. Do you go into a situation like that with your guard up? Like, did you...
Yeah, I mean, I prepared a
Yeah.
lot. And there were comics who prepared, we got the topics in advance and wrote a lot of jokes
Yeah.
and just hope you remembered them and said them at the right time and stuff. And then there's like Patrice.
Right.
I wouldn't even read the packets. I loved being around those guys, and I didn't even necessarily think of being a comedy writer. I was just a comic, and I went to Cuba. We actually did shows at Gitmo at Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, wow.
And Colin and Nick DiPaolo and Greg Rogel and Jim Gaffigan and Geraldo were there. And
Oh, nice.
I was like, these guys, this is great. This is the crew I want to hang out with,
Yeah.
And then his show started soon after that, and then I just really started pestering him and finally got a job. But
So you've played LA before, right? Before you got out here and
Yeah,
started
a little
doing
bit,
stand-up.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. How do you feel about LA audiences? Do you think they're a little bit soft compared to New York audiences?
No, it's racially they're just not into race jokes whatsoever, which is
Really?
so shocking to me.
Yeah, because when I saw you a couple weeks ago, every
that,
time you
that abortion of a show. Oh my God, that was so bad. I almost wanted to quit. I'm like, I can't do it anymore.
No, it really frustrated me because it just made me angry about like the scene here or whatever,
Yeah.
and just kind of the audiences that I just feel like I observe at stand-up shows, because I was just thinking like they're not gonna like Laurie Kilmartin. She's gonna make racial jokes, she's gonna make abortion jokes, and they're all gonna groan and
Yeah.
and they did, and it really pissed me
Yeah.
off because you're hilarious and.
Thanks.
You just, I don't know. I really wish that brutal style, the honest, thing, whatever, would translate more to the West Coast. But
it's a much more gentle style they appreciate here.
And I've read in interviews you've said that there's no comparison between starting out in LA and starting out in New York. Like, do you think it's possible for a comic to start out here and
sure. I mean,
you say it's a lot of industry people in the crowd, like.
Yeah, I think that's a common complaint with comics is there's lots of industry in the crowd. But then it just seems like, and again, I haven't worked every venue or anything like that, but it seems like you're always performing in people that are just like you.
Yeah.
They're your friends, or you guys are from the same, social class, or you have the same points of view. And so it makes a different type of comedian than somebody who's thrown up in front of crowds that have nothing in common with you, and you're forced to find something,
And now, being a comedian that does a lot of race-sensitive type material, you seem to have a particular vendetta against Mexicans. And I want to know if they come up to you in tears after the show. It's sad that you're shitting on their
I'm mad
race.
because one impregnated me. That's my actual deep-seated anger. Is he ruined my life with my.
And he's a comic too, right?
Yeah, he's a comic too. Yeah.
Now before that, did you like dating comics? Like, do you find a lot of, obviously common ground there, but I don't know, like, I find it, I think two creative types almost, it's just two psychos.
Yeah,
like, it's hard to mix.
It's a horrible idea. And before, I had dated one comic when I first started, and then I would say I banged a few, right. And this is my
all at once a gangbang.
I got it over with. You should do 5. So I just did it all in one night.
Yeah. A comedy site I love, which is very fond of you, cringehumor.net. I'm sure you're more than familiar. Yeah. That's a site basically dedicated to more, raw, brutally honest, potentially offensive, whatever that means, type of comedy. But they love you. They refer to you on that site as a feminist nightmare, which I find just hilarious. Like, is that how you view yourself? Like, do any overtly feminist types, really sensitive, like women's lib type people come up to you and are angry about the fact that you're kind of, self-deprecating and all that stuff?
Yeah, there is I think I'm a feminist, there's a certain branch of feminism that is, classically
that has no
humorless.
sense of humor whatsoever.
And doesn't think rape jokes are funny, and stuff. But I think
rape jokes are hilarious. We can quote Laurie Kilmartin on that. Yeah.
Yes, please, and necessary. But that seems to be like an older generation, and there's a few, I guess, younger ones too. But it seems the majority of women are cool. It's just I have done actually feminist crowds, and they're a little tighter about
like a whole show full of like feminist audience.
Yeah, I think there was
like
something
kind of
at
rally.
Caroline's. It was like the celebration of Gloria Steinem, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be tough.
I just picture you doing it on like a bullhorn with an army jacket or something like that, like a rally outside. Yeah. Tear gas exploding in the background.
That would be a fun show that I would do. I really enjoyed doing the road. I went on the road for a long time, and I liked doing one-nighters and kind of the gigs that a lot of comics hate.
Right.
I liked doing because they were kind of, rough and hard and clunky, and you felt like if you had a good set, you really accomplished something. And and I normally don't have I don't think much in common with somebody from like Miles City, Montana.
Right.
But so if you can find a way to make them laugh, it's kind of cool and satisfying. So
what's do you have a nightmare one-nighter story from back in the day?
I would say one of my first college gig was at this college called TCU.
Yeah.
Which I didn't look up.
Texas.
It's
there we go.
Texas.
Was it Texas Christian?
Christian,
So
exactly.
you just knew TCU. And
I just was like TCU.
They didn't have Wikipedia back then.
There's no laptops on the road at that point, and the show was at night and out. Like everything was wrong. It was at night, outdoors, and there was like a searchlight following me, and then I found out on stage it was for Christian, and the crowd. I mean, even the crowd was, they were young, which is awful.
Right.
A lot of young college kids are just, they don't understand sarcasm yet, and they're just not there yet. And then when they're Christian, it's a little tougher.
It's a really, I've heard many comedians describe the college crowd as just a really like overly sensitive type of crowd, which just seems so weird to me because everyone's just doing nothing but partying in college and getting completely wasted and acting very amorally in general, and then all of a sudden they're at a comedy show and they start to judge everybody. It's odd.
I think their senses of humor are not developed yet. It's a little more of a grown-up thing, and I think they're still they're still like teenagers.
Yeah, they think they know everything.
Yeah,
at
that's
that
true
age.
too. Yeah,
and so they're gonna judge you because they haven't like had to get a shitty job yet or anything. It's just like they're in college.
Yeah, although the economy is so shitty, it's still bad now. Now they're right in there at age 18. They understand your tales of woe.
And we can all bond in the fact that we're better than them. So we're a very elitist group here. Yeah.